do you think everyone points a finger at red meat when in fact it's all the saturated fats and the sugars and a lot of the carbs and the obesity?
Well, here's what I would say. If we're honest about this, obviously there are people that are doing whole food plant-based diets that are improving. Right? You experience that. You've got Dr. Michael Greger, you've got Neil Bernard all saying, look at the benefits, look at the benefits. Undoubtedly, we see some benefits. But what is the commonality? None of those guys are eating a bunch of sugar. None of those guys are eating a bunch of, oils. None of those guys are eating a bunch of refined, grains, Twinkies, garbage. So when you take that out of the diet, I think that's the greatest offender. We can argue, we can go back ancestrally, and I can make an evolutionary plausible argument for eating a meat-based diet or a mostly meat-based diet. I think that's fairly reasonable to do, but we can always say we don't know for sure. Until somebody invents a time machine, we're never gonna know. But what I can tell you is they weren't eating Twinkies, they weren't eating Doritos, they weren't eating Crisco. I mean, there's some things we know they didn't eat for sure. And those things that have been introduced to the modern diet, the industrialized, chemical slop, basically, is my view, what's really causing most of the problems.
And so the people that show success with plant-based, you're saying it's because maybe they've cut out a lot of the other things. So you're okay with people doing plant-based diets because it could be a healthy option for them.
Certainly. I, despite what people sort of want to say about me, I'm completely supportive. If somebody wants to do a plant-based diet and it works for them, good for them. I'm all supportive for that. The same thing, they should afford me and others like me the right to do a diet that's, mostly a meat-based diet or a completely meat-based diet if needed. The standard American diet, as much as we malign, is 70% plant-based. I mean, you look at it from a caloric and a volume standpoint, unfortunately, most of it is processed grain, sugar, soy, seed oils and things like that, but those are still plant-based products. We were still eating a relatively small percentage of our food coming from meat. If we look at, and again, epidemiology is not that good, but we can find plenty of examples. I've used this example plenty of times. Hong Kong, I don't know if you've been to Hong Kong, you might have, but they eat a lot of meat in Hong Kong. If we look at the stats on this, Hong Kong reliably lives longer than almost anybody in the world. If you just Google Hong Kong life expectancy, you're gonna see Hong Kong tops the life expectancy for the world for the second year in a row. And then you look at Hong Kong meat consumption, and they eat on average like 1.6 pounds of meat per day per person, which is far more than we eat here in the United States, way more than we eat in the UK. It's like 4 times what the UK eats. So these people live the longest, eat way more meat, and also they have the highest IQ on the planet, which, is kind of an interesting observation.
Well, some people come back and just say that's a small sample size or that's that one
Well, I mean,
country
it's certainly it's bigger than all the blue zones combined. There's 7 million people in Hong Kong, right? I mean, so you've got a big sample size, and you could say, and this is the point, life expectancy is not based on diet. I mean, it's a small component of that. There's so many things. Wealth is probably the biggest thing. Access to fresh water, access to health care. Those types of things are going to drive life expectancy more than anything else. But at the same time, we could look at Monaco, we could look at Switzerland, we could look at Iceland, all these countries. Iceland has some of the most centenarian males on the planet. And Iceland's a frozen rock. They don't have mangoes and fresh fruits and vegetables growing there. These guys traditionally grew up on dairy, primarily lamb, seafood. They had a little bit of grain they imported from Denmark, but that was traditionally their traditional diet. And those guys lived a long time as well.